Hey, hey, what is going on, everybody? You're listening to Expanded Perspectives with me, Cam Hale, and joining me, as always, the maestro over here across the table from me, Mr. Kyle Filson.
How's it going?
What's going on, bud?
Oh, nothing, man.
Oh, my goodness. We have been busy little bees getting everything done, getting everything caught up with work and trying to get everything going on because I'm off tomorrow, Veterans Day. Shout out to all the veterans. This fella across there from me, though, he's not off tomorrow.
I got to work, but I don't know how much hard work it's going to be. I mean, most of the banks and stuff will be closed. So.
If you're doing it, it's not going to be hard.
No.
Getting primed and ready. I got my my invitation for your baby boy Luke's birthday.
Yep, yeah, he's going to turn 2 on the 24th of this month. So
no, they're talking about what the terrible twos or the two. Is he started early? You think?
No, he's been pretty good so far. In fact, with my other boys,
it's his brothers.
It was age 3 that was worse than age 2.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I have twin 6-year-old boys as well. So I have 3 sons, twin 6-year-old boys. Identical twins, and then baby Luke, he's going to be 2 in a couple days.
Now you've got now the boys were started off being bad about 3, and what are they now? They're like 6, 7, and they're still wild men.
They're not so much bad anymore, but they are wild.
That's great.
They tear up everything.
It is greatness.
Even their own stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you can buy them an Xbox, everything. I mean, they'll still tear the games up. In a matter of 2 months, they can't play the game anymore because the disc is so scratched.
They don't care.
Yeah, no.
They're totally ruthless. Totally ruthless. Yeah. We are going to have some fun today, guys. It is just Kyle and I. You just got us for this whole show. We are going to do a little chit-chatting and all that. Now, we're going to have some interesting interviews coming up shortly.
That's right. In fact, on the last episode, I had mentioned that was the night that the new Finding Bigfoot was coming out.
Yes, yeah.
And I was wrong. The guide said it was new because it was like a revamped show where they put these little blurbs.
What's it called? Further Evidence,
Man,
I believe is what it is.
I thought it was the new show because I've been seeing commercials for the new season coming up. So I just assumed, oh, okay, this is the new one. But the new one is coming out tonight. And I actually looked into it, and it really is.
And who's on it?
Lyle Blackburn.
Yeah.
Which is really cool because we're interviewing that fella in about a week.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to have Lyle. Our very next episode will have Nick as our interview, Mr. Nick Redfern.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to him.
And then we'll have Lyle as our interview after that.
So, I mean,
they fell right, and of course, they might as well be neighbors. I mean, hell, they're real close to us, so.
Yeah, Nick lives in Arlington, and I think Lyle lives in Fort Worth.
Yeah,
so.
for sure.
Yeah, so that's going to be pretty neat. I mean, just seeing a guy on TV that I know I'm about to be talking to in a week, so.
That's pretty wild, huh?
Yeah. And of course, we're going to be talking about The Lizard Man, which is his newest book.
That's his newest book.
And what's Nick's new book?
For No One's Eyes Only? For Nobody's Eyes Only?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we're going to get into that with him, man. I've got so much stuff to discuss with him. Hey.
Yeah, go ahead.
What kind of stuff? You were telling me something earlier today about some sounds that you've got.
Yeah, this is, it's not new, but when I was watching the commercials for the new Finding Bigfoot, I remembered these sounds I heard. These were recorded like in 1972 in the Sierra Mountains, and it sounds like a Japanese martial arts film.
Now, before you get into this is like off of, now Joe Rogan had a show that Joe Rogan Questions Everything. I remember seeing a little bit about that.
Okay, right.
Of the one, his very first show with the Bigfoot. They were talking to like a linguist or something.
Yeah,
is this along those bases? Is that what this is?
And I couldn't find the exact clips because I didn't have time. I just looked into it a few minutes ago. But I found the website. It's called BigfootSounds.com, and I'll put links to all this on the show. But it's got some pretty interesting things. I mean, in the first... One of the first things they do, they're like they can hear it whistling, and they're whistling back and forth with it.
Really?
So, yeah.
Now, who's that? Like this was. Now, when did you say this was recorded?
It was recorded in 1972.
Okay.
By a guy named.
I'm interested in it. You were telling me about it off air before we ever got started, and I wanted to hear this.
Yeah. Listen to this first one. I think this is them whistling back and forth or something. He's talking to it. Come on down.
What the hell?
Is that the guy whistling or is that it whistling?
Is he filming this in a zoo?
I don't know. Hold on. Let's check out this other one. This is vocal exchange. Let's listen to this.
Was that an old samurai?
I don't know, but it sounds pissed.
It doesn't want a bath.
If I heard that in the woods, I would haul ass.
No joke.
Right? I mean, what is that?
First
It says here that they can tell that the voice range of these creatures goes beyond the range of any human being.
No, I know.
I don't know that that's true.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. The thing sounds really mic'd well. I mean,
That's just what I was going to ask you.
The guy not take pictures of it, or?
Does it say how he recorded these sounds?
Well,
because okay, this is the two things I'm thinking of. In like '72, I'm thinking of like my grandparents had one that was about the size of a book. You put a cassette tape in and like click, click, you push play, and it was like the big, it was a gaudy tape recorder.
Or one of those like mics with like parabolic, like disc around it. I mean, do they have that then? I don't know.
What the hell were they doing? It sounds like he's sitting across the table from the dude. Did they have like a wireless mic clipped into his fur?
So
Take a photo of the thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you have it there for that long and it's talking and whistling, I mean, you didn't have a camera? I don't know. Here's another one. Look, it says, the evening began at dusk with these creatures rhythmic rapping and then whooping
wait a second.
the men. It says, Ron Moorhead decided to respond with his own whoop, and thus began a vocal exchange that lasted over an hour.
Run Yeti. Here we go. Instead of Run DMC, come on, let's play on. That's a howler monkey at the Fort Worth Zoo.
Yeah. I guess that's the guy whooping back at it.
Yeah.
And it says that went on for over an hour. I don't know. I wish I had the clip, and I didn't have time to find it, but I can maybe find it in the future, where it's two of them talking back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it sounds like a Japanese martial arts film.
Like old Mandarin Chinese, like old, what were those?
You do.
When I used to do all that. What was that show we used to? There was always, because you and I used to watch them as kids.
Shaolin
all the
Temple
time.
Strikes Back. And that's what it sounds like. But they're claiming that it's outside the vocal range of any human being.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's pretty neat. I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing. It's if I was going to fake a Bigfoot, I think I would try to choose something more like a monkey or something. The fact that this guy
I concur,
has chosen Japanese martial arts films to recreate the sounds of what a Sasquatch. I mean, I don't know if it's real. It's probably real. It may not be. But if it's not, the guy gets points from me just for originality.
Just some crazy style point for it, yeah. For sure. It's like the whole Patterson Gimlin. Why would you fake it as a female when everybody would just make it as a male? Wouldn't you pick a primate sound or a growling, rah, you try to, I don't know what the hell you would come up with, but Japanese kung fu movie, Mandarin Chinese, Shaolin Temple monk jabber is not something that I would try to attribute to a Bigfoot.
Speaking of Bigfoot, don't you have a similar story you're doing tonight?
Yeah, we're going to toss that little rock ape action from Vietnam, because we're doing a little Veterans Day special. I figured, why not? We'll just tie the veterans into the...
Yeah, that's going to be really neat. I've read some stories about sightings during the Vietnam War, as well as other wars.
Yeah, well, I'll get into it. What's pretty neat about the whole thing is there's actually two. I'm not going to really probably cover some of it, but they've seen two different sizes in Vietnam. They've seen small, and then they've seen real big. So it's it's kind of like they say over here, maybe there's more than one species that's kicking it around over here.
That's neat. I mean, is it similar to that orang pandek?
I think so. Yeah, we'll discuss it some more. But yeah, that's kind of way. It's kind of what a feeling like I kind of have with the whole deal too.
Right on. Hey, did you see in the news? You're familiar with these 3D printers.
Yes, I want one of those.
I mean, I just saw an article where it showed that a company out of Austin was able to use one of these 3D printers, and they printed out a metal handgun. It's a 1911, which is a classic 45 ACP handgun.
I was under the impression that it was all plastic.
No, this one's metal, and it fires. They fired it, I think they said 50 times. So now you can print out a metal handgun. I mean, is that crazy?
So now we've got a printer that, of course, not like I said, leave it to Texas to pull out one where you can print out a metal pistol. But see, I was always under the impression that they were plastic. I've seen the plastic ones made where they downloaded the information off the internet, like the schematics.
Right.
And I guess anybody could download it. That was what I knew that some of the government agencies were bitching about, the fact that underage kids could get the schematics for, what the hell was that? Me? Was the schematics for a pistol, download it, and then print out whatever they wanted to print out.
Yeah, well, this is a fully functional handgun, a metal handgun. I mean, it's a 45 ACP. I mean, it works fine. I mean, they've shot it 50 times. What's scary to me is like I'm with you. When I first saw this 3D printers, it was very rude and rudimentary. I'm sorry, not rude. Objects. It'd be like a hammer or a wrench.
I saw them actually print out like a knife. Looked like a letter opener one time.
Something very simple. Yeah. But apparently, I mean, this is a fully functional handgun. So, I mean, it's not just the metal outside, the frame, the body, the barrel, the rifling of the barrel, the pins, the springs, all the pieces that you need necessary to make a semi-automatic handgun fire.
I didn't know that they were making them out of metal.
That's crazy, cool. Right?
How do they? I wonder how they print the barrel. I'm really...
Man, I don't know.
Because it's got to be rifled. I mean, other than that, it's useless.
Yeah. I mean...
Unless you're shooting them
from me to you. And if you can print all the parts, I mean, you're not going to need to go to AutoZone or anything or a parts store.
It's true. It's very true.
And the stores themselves will never run out of parts because they can just print you one, right?
Yeah. I mean, that would be the... I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they could print them in pieces. Okay, let's say like a water pump. Yeah. You know, so let's say that they could print something like, or okay, maybe not that quite that. How about fan blades? You know, you could always fan blades.
Sure you'd be able to print anything. I mean, if you're working at home and you're like using a jigsaw or something, you snap a blade. Can you just like go on the internet, get the schematics, boom, print you out another blade, put it in, and start going right back to work? You don't have to ever go to town.
Yeah, I would think so. Phone cases is the thing that always comes to my mind every time I think about it. You know, everybody always wants these fancy phone cases. Well, that's an easy thing to print out. Yeah. And then bingo, there's your phone case for whatever style phone, or an iPad case. Or what about, when will you start using a 3D printer to print a 3D printer?
What are you going to do when DARPA hacks your internet, son? And then in the middle of the night while you're asleep,
they print out one of those little helicopters.
One of those little DARPA cheetahs prints out in your bedroom and comes in and gets your ass. I don't know.
I don't know.
You make sure you turn off all your computers at night.
Yeah, you got to unplug everything. Man, it's the whole idea behind the 3D printing. I had heard that it was the idea that they were wanting to use with it was on the space shuttle, where they could take it into space. And if
that makes sense because you can only take a limited amount of tools with you up there.
Exactly.
And if you run into a problem, boom, they email you the part.
I don't know what they use for. Like, there's no longer reams of paper. Is it reams of plastic and rolls of steel? You know, I've never really seen one.
I have no idea. I'm picturing in my mind. Well, before the plastics, I'm not sure. You know, like maybe the little BBs of plastic and it melts it, and then
I don't know. Yeah,
I'm picturing with the metal like you said, like a block of steel or aluminum or something, and then like one of those CNC machines or whatever. Just like, you know,
I keep picturing one of those machines that makes seamless gutters, and it just like a big roll that sits at the side of the printer, and it rolls in, and like silverware is falling out. We're like, yay! I got my new silverware ready in time for Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I don't know.
Is that just something that simple? What about cups and spoons and dishes? I mean, you just print one out, print it up, you get it together.
I'm going to put links to all that in the show
notes. It is pretty wild, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it just gets. Hey, I was going to bring this up right quick. I know it's a little off topic, but it's still something that would be easy we can talk about as far as printing is. I was on an in-demand channel on our cable television service, and I noticed that they were having a movie you could watch before it was in the theaters.
Right.
And it was they called The Colony. Before it was in the the theaters.
You
It's
could
like-
watch it at home before it was in the movie theater.
for like $12.99 was what it said it was, or $11.99, something like that. I was wondering, I want to get your thoughts on this. How long before you can start watching the moment the movie's released in theaters that they release it to you at home?
Well, that's a very good question.
I wonder how long that's going to be.
I've thought of that to myself before because, if I want to take my family to the movies, it's going to cost me like $60 to $70. By the time you pay for the tickets, pay for the popcorn for all the kids, the candy, the sodas, everything. I mean, it's expensive. So normally we don't go to the movies. And besides, you'll spend all that money, then you'll go there, and there'll be some obnoxious teenager in front of you with his phone.
Everybody's
or something.
got their phones
and so
out,
you end up having a miserable experience. If I just wait a month and a half, it's on demand at my house.
Mm-hmm.
We do the same thing. We get the soft drinks out, we get the popcorn, the kids and everybody, we make a pallet on the floor, we all get together and watch the movie.
Yeah.
I've thought about that before. Like if you could rent a movie on demand, say that's out 2 months after it was in the theaters for $6.99. What if it came out the day it was
The
released
day of.
for $12.99 or something?
Yeah.
I don't know why that would happen. And nowadays, and this has to do with a lot with professional sports too. I mean, for my family, to go to like a Dallas Cowboys football game, it's going to cost me like $700.
Yeah.
I'd be better served using that money to buy myself a projector and build a media room in my house. Then I can watch every football game.
For sure.
And movies and video games or whatever else. And, that just seems like a better choice to me. I think you're right. The technology with the Blu-ray and the projectors and the stuff like that and the on-demand and stuff, man, I don't know how I don't see how the movie business. I mean, of course, they'll always stay in business. It gives a place for teenagers to take dates.
But will they? Because I thought Blockbuster would always be around.
Not as much.
too.
Hey, when I was a kid, drive-in theaters were very popular, and now there's
I remember
hardly
we used to
any
go
around.
a lot when we were younger.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I mean, there was one that was literally a mile from where we live now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I remember going there as a kid.
The
but
only one
not
I
anymore.
even know of is in Granbury.
Yep, that's true. That's the only one that I've ever.
And I think that it's pretty popular because I think it's only one of a handful left in
Around
the
this
state.
area.
And, state of Texas is pretty big.
And I know that they show like two shows. So
Right,
whenever
yeah,
you go,
it's like a double.
It's funny to me because we have all this. We have Facebook. We have all this social media, but it's making us unsocial. You can get all these things without. The whole idea was, remember, it used to be like, what was it, $15 a carload to go to the drive-in. So everybody would pile in somebody's truck or their Suburban or something, or you'd hide people in the trunks or in the back seat under some blankets where everybody else was sitting so you could get more people in there. I forgot what it was. Anyway, everybody goes in there. That was a social thing. And now all this alleged, in air quotes, social media, you stay at home. You look at your Twitter, you look at your
Becoming
Facebook.
more of a recluse, actually.
You want to be more social, but you measure everything by friends on Facebook. I mean, it's a it's a give and take,
And the
it's almost
problem
out of
with that
balance.
non-face-to-face confrontations between people is, man, it brings out a lot of trolls.
Well, the animosity that people can get
People
away with.
are very rude, and they would never do that if they were standing next to you in public.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if I don't think it's their nature. I think it's the fact that people, I think they get aggravated easily. Well,
you see it in cars.
In today's.
If you were standing in a line at the bank or at the post office or something, and somebody was to step in front of you or bump into you or something, you'd be like, "Oh, okay, no, excuse me, oh yeah, no problem."
Yeah.
Man, the moment you're in that little box of a car,
a little metal.
somebody wants to
box.
get in. People are flipping each other off. They're mad. They're yelling. I'm just like, man, what's the
Tailgating,
problem?
cutting people
It's
off.
just the little box makes you feel like you're safe.
It separates you.
You have the ability to be a jerk. Yeah.
Separate you. Hey, we need to, just a real quick thought, we need to get a hold of doing something with some paranormal stuff. We've talked about it before. We need to talk.
Yeah.
We need to get somebody on about
You're right,
that.
yeah.
We'll have to get somebody on. Folks, if any of you have any ideas, or if you're into the paranormal and you know of anybody that might do some good research and things we could talk to that y'all would like to hear, fire us an email, expandedperspectives@yahoo.com. Shoot us an email and let us know. I'm really curious about it. I'd like to try to get one up and going and maybe do some good interviews with that, because what made me think of it was the other day, the Baker Hotel in Mineral Wells, the old hotel, they were doing a ghost tour during Halloween. So I was like,
Oh, really?
That'd be something neat. I'd like to talk to some people about something paranormal. I
Yeah,
know
I'd like that.
That we've got some listeners who are into that, so we may have to check that out. So, man, what do you say? Let's wrap this baby up. Let's take a little break, and we'll come back and dump some more on them.
Yeah. We didn't get to talk about what I'm going to do tonight.
What have you got?
I'm doing my top 4 out-of-place objects.
Ooh, like just anything anomalous, or just out of place, like ancient historical objects?
Yeah, most of them are ancient, but they don't deserve to be there.
Like there's no explanation for
There's
why
no
they're here.
explanation. Right. It's an out of place object.
I
It's
got you.
a time period where it shouldn't exist.
That'd be like you at a swim meet.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally out of place object. I've got you. Or I got you. Like me at a bodybuilding contest. Totally out of place. I'm all right with that.
All right, man. Well, stick around, and we'll be back, and we're going to get into the rock ape.
We want to talk about a little Vietnam rock ape. Thank y'all.
And we're back. I can't wait to hear the stories about the rock ape. Is it the rock ape or the stone ape?
It's the, man, I guess you could call it whatever you wanted to, really.
Is it Nguai, Rong? What kind of crazy names do they got? See, that's
They
my favorite
have
part
some
about
awesome
crypto
names.
is the neat names they have. You know,
I know.
what is it? The Yowie.
Hey, that was playing tonight on the Finding Bigfoot. It
was?
showed that the Yowie was the I didn't watch the one about the Yowie, the Finding Bigfoot, but it said it was new, and it didn't say anything about further evidence. Look at all the hand signals I'm doing, like nobody can see. I'm throwing hand signals out like I'm landing an F-16.
It's a special, or it's the normal Finding Bigfoot, and they go to Australia.
I guess that's what it is. Did you see that one? I didn't even know they did that.
I don't remember. Like I said, halfway through the season, I think I just started watching like the first 5 minutes, and I don't watch the rest because they never find nothing.
You are no help whatsoever when it comes to that, are you? Like,
No.
what the hell?
The kids really like it though; they love it.
Jack Link's jerky. That's how the boys told me I could catch a Bigfoot whenever
Oh yeah,
I was
they
talking
think
to
that's
the
his fair
boys.
food. You give him beef jerky. Well, he's only mean to you,
If you try to take it away from
right,
him.
and pull a
Yeah.
prank on him. Right, if
Yeah.
you just share it with him, he's cool, man.
He's down with that. He's cool, yo. Okay, what I'm going to discuss for this Veterans Day, which made me think of it, was the Vietnam rock ape, which there's been a lot. And when I say a lot, there has been several accounts given by Vietnam veterans that had seen things or encountered things while in Vietnam.
Now, weren't a lot of these veterans though just stoned to the gills on LSD and weed and stuff?
Man, I've watched a lot of those same movies you've watched, and it looks like that. But you know what? I wouldn't be hating on them if they were.
No.
I bet they had some.
What about with Agent Orange? Like makes you start having hallucinations?
I don't
can't
know,
talk.
but when I read you this story right here, it's a pretty wild story, really.
So does it have a cool name other than just the rock ape?
Well, okay, they actually call it, in Vietnam, it's called the Batut Tut.
The Batut-tut.
Batut Tut, which actually stands for forest people.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of in Vietnamese, and of course, I'm sure my Vietnamese accent's a little off. You could actually call it Batut Tut.
I don't have any
But I
idea.
don't know. But I'm going off of that whole thing. There was actually a book that's got several of these articles written in it, and it's called Very Crazy GI, Strange But True Stories of the Vietnam War, and it's written by Craig P.J. Jorgensen. And he was a Vietnam veteran, and he's put a lot of these in here.
And you can get this on Amazon
Yeah,
and
I'm
stuff?
sure you can find it on Amazon.
Right on.
He actually tells a story that he actually had a sighting in Vietnam of a short, red-haired, hairy, upright anthropoid that was running around out there. He called it, and the soldiers in the Vietnam soldiers in that area called it rock apes. I'm assuming it's because they saw them a lot in the rocky crags and the mountains of the areas around there.
I mean, I'm not familiar with the wildlife range of what am I thinking of?
Of Vietnam, yeah.
No.
All the creatures, come on.
It's a type of ape with red hair. I can't think of the word.
Orangutan?
Yeah, could it have been one of those? I mean, or do they not live there?
How long
I
have
don't know where they
How
live.
long have you known me?
A long time.
Have I ever studied primates or orangutans that live in Vietnam?
No, but I'm just
Ever?
saying.
I mean, who
if,
are you
if
asking?
orangutans are known to be in that area, and then some guy sees one, some red hair, I mean, I would think it was that.
That was the first thing that I thought of whenever you bring that up, and I've actually got it jotted
You
down
know what
in
I mean?
some of my notes.
Not,
Yeah.
I'm not picking on your story. I'm saying I think most sightings of everything is just misidentification.
Well, you bring that up because I looked up trying to figure out the sizes of what they actually said that rock apes were. Some of them were small. They actually saw like 3-footers. The story
Those are obviously juveniles.
The story I'm about to read you is about a 7-footer.
Whoa.
Yeah. I don't know of anything that's 7 foot tall in Vietnam. No. I mean, certainly not the people. So, I mean, you know what I'm saying? What the heck is that big in Vietnam?
Yeah.
Not that I'm a specialist in the Vietnam critters, but
yeah,
I don't know. But what made me, and I'll get into that after we'll read and discuss this story. But what made me think of it was when I first started thinking of the rock apes, I instantly thought about the Sumatran orang pendek. Right. Because they talk about they're small, red-haired, little, and they, alleged to look maybe a lot like an orangutan or something like that. So, if you want to find this story, folks, if you want to jump on and go along, sometimes if you go to beforeitsnews.com is where we got it from. It actually comes from a website before. It's called stancourtney.com. So I'm sure Stan's the man that wrote it. This was originally published. This actual excerpt from this whole thing on Before It's News was originally published on phantomsandmonsters.com, which is Lon's website. But see if I can do my best to read y'all something to make it entertaining. Here we go. It was in 1969. I was on patrol one evening, just before dark in the North 2 Corps in Vietnam. We were returning to the hill when we encountered hostile fire. The squad was caught off guard, so we used what cover was available. The fight had been going on for only a few minutes when movement caught my eye. Through the thick vegetation, I saw what I thought was a large man breaking cover from behind my left side. As the thing ran past me, I realized it wasn't a man, and I was not really sure of what I was seeing. The thing was about 7 feet tall and had an enormous build. Though not completely covered with hair, the thing had reddish-brown hair covering a good portion of its body. It had covered about 30 yards very quickly, passing within just yards of my position, when it got hit in the crossfire. The thing stumbled once or twice, but never fell. All of a sudden, the enemy broke and ran. One even left his weapon behind. They were yelling something, but none of us ever knew what it was that they were yelling. We slowly regrouped and made sure no one was wounded and discussed what we thought we had seen. As it was getting dark and there were hostiles in the area, we decided to get back to the hill. That night we heard several howls sounding very similar to the ones that you have recorded, coming from all over the place. Some sounds like there were just outside of the hooch, and others sounded more than a mile away. There were all kinds of sounds, from whines to growls to sounds that sounded like barks. Needless to say, no one slept that night. The next morning, all of us that were on the patrol decided to try and track this thing. It took a lot of talking to get the tops to let us go looking for it, but after hearing the same story from the whole squad, they decided to let us have a chance to bring it back. We returned to the area and found a blood trail leading into the jungle. We trailed it for quite some time. Then we found the body of an enemy soldier that had been almost torn completely apart. We did not know exactly what happened, but I have a good notion to what may have happened. We basically ran out of that area back to our hill. The rest of the time we were in Vietnam, I never heard the sounds or saw anything like it again. The talk of what we had seen spread very quickly, and some of the locals called it a name that I can neither pronounce or remember. But the translation, if I recall, was stench monkey or foul monkey.
Back toot toot.
Back toot toot. I can't remember for sure. What I do know is that it bothered me so much that I transferred from there to a job on a helicopter so I wouldn't have to be in the jungle anymore. After returning home to Alabama when my tour had ended, I occasionally heard sounds that reminded me so much of that encounter. It had been years since I had left Alabama and moved to the west central Illinois. I seldom thought of that day in Vietnam or the things I heard and saw. The recording is exactly what I heard over there. I could close my eyes and still hear the howl in Vietnam. Regrettably, I have mixed feelings about discovering your website. Relieved that someone else may know what I went through, frightened that there may be something in the area where I now live. I realize that you are interested in pursuing this creature or one like it, but let me warn you from someone who has seen it, what it is capable of firsthand, don't. And that comes from stancourtney.com. What it is, it's talking about some of the sounds that you had played for us and some of the howls and stuff.
Whooping and stuff? No,
yeah. Yeah, so apparently this guy actually saw something large.
Yeah.
And this is going against the other things that we had discussed.
And it dismembered somebody.
It jacked up somebody while it was kicking it around over there. Yeah.
And it was shot.
He says it took a couple of hits.
Is that the blood trail they were following?
He was trailing it. Yeah. They just, man. Yet again, it goes back into that thing like we discussed with Linda whenever she was talking about the werewolves.
Yeah.
It seems like you hit them, but it never kills them.
No, it's not the first time I've heard somebody
they just wear it.
Something like that, and they just keep on rocking.
There's another one on here I'm going to read you right quick, folks.
Okay.
A man named Steve Williams sent this in, and it says, while at an Army military police school, my brother-in-law, Craig Miles of Boise, Idaho, met a Vietnam veteran that recalled a low-altitude special forces drop into the interior during 1967 and 68. It was the middle of the night, and there was no villages for 15 miles. It says, for a period of 3 nights, they heard choking and gurgling noises. On the first day, they found the upper half of a decomposing Bigfoot-like creature. It had been blown in half by something, but not them. This was apparently not the noise they had heard, a mate possibly. This was the speculation that was circulating. They could see into the body cavity, spine, lungs, and such. All was crawling with bugs. There was shorter hair on the head, the eyes sunk back 1.5 inches from the brow line. It had long arms, very large and long fingers, and one hand was still wrapped around a branch. He didn't say what color it was, but he did mention that it had a flat nose. If the creature had its legs, the estimated height was around 8 feet tall.
Holy cow.
There was no sign of the lower half of the body. They were able to see the teeth, all flat, well-formed molars except the canines, which were longer and pointed. Seemed adapted to living in the forest with long arms and fingers, or perhaps just builds night nests like gorillas sometimes do. I don't even know what to think about that.
Wow.
These are guys that have come back, and even guys that are telling these stories of what they have seen. I mean, at this point here, I understand, this didn't happen in the States. It's not like you could have easily grabbed what was the remains and took it back in to be checked. I get that. But still.
So I guess there was like a firefight or something, and like mortar round,
or maybe there was a landmine.
And
maybe there was a landmine somewhere that blew the legs off of it. I don't know what happened, but it sounds like they got a really good look.
Yeah.
At what it was. These are stories like this man here. I wish that somebody would follow up, would really go discuss it, would really go talk to the people that, this is a good story.
The people that write into this.
Well, yeah, the guy that was telling that story, that would be a really great story to listen to, or to actually talk to him and be like, can you describe it well enough for like a police sketch artist to sketch something up to what you saw? Or has it been so long now that maybe your mind's kind of playing?
And I'm with you. That would be very interesting if you could find a book or a compilation of all these stories. Like I said, I've heard, I heard some stories that happened during Vietnam, but I want to say that they saw guys that were like glowing.
You told me a story, this has been a while back, about a guy seeing one that actually looked like it had wings. Like when it took off, remember? Like and took off, and it looked like it had wings. That's nothing like what we're discussing.
No, I know. This was not Sasquatch. I'm talking about just other stories during Vietnam. I even heard a story of like a pterosaur or something flying around. It reminded me of Paul Nation because that's Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, that's what it reminds me of. I don't know if it had bioluminescence or not, but I remember reading somewhere about these things that they saw flying, and they were completely silent. You could just hear them when they flew over, and they looked like large pterosaurs. And then also I said I read something about some glowing men they saw. Like it was like a Sasquatch almost, but like it was glowing, like orange. I don't know. I'd have to research.
Yeah, that is true. Well, and there was that one story that you and I had both read about the Japanese soldiers in New Guinea were clearing out those the caves and had flushed a bunch of pterosaurs out.
Yeah,
that's a pretty crazy.
Now, was that on like an island out in the Pacific, or was that?
I thought it was in Papua New Guinea where it actually happened.
Oh, it was Papua New Guinea.
I don't know. We're gonna have to talk to Paul about that for sure. Right. When I got carried off onto the whole rock ape thing is when I got to looking up the orang pendek. All right, and that's, for people that aren't familiar with the orang pendek, actually is from the island of Sumatra. Now, some of the very first rock ape stories we're talking, like I told you that when I first was researching them, and you had talked about what you had seen, were like 3-footers, and that's what made me first think of it. Then I found this where they were talking about large creatures, very, very large creatures. So I was like, okay, maybe it's not the same thing that we've been looking into. But the orang pendek sizes are roughly 30 to 60 inches. I'm sorry, centimeters tall. Excuse me. So they said this is what they say that they usually get to. 85 to 90 centimeters. Now, this is coming from Debbie Martyr. She's been studying the orang pendek for 15 years. And she says by her studies, they are usually 80 to 90 centimeters tall, sometimes 1.20 centimeters tall. So they're not real big. What are we talking about? So we're talking 3 to 3.5 footers.
Right.
And now here's the really strange thing, though. And some of these, Debbie reports that they are dark gray or they're black with like speckled and flecked parts of gray hair in them. But that's just one. Some of the other reports that I've found, they were like a reddish brown, blackish brown, golden browns. Gray to brown. It pretty much seems like from a gray to a black, they cover this range of browns and reds and golden colors. So it does sound a lot like an orangutan.
Yeah.
In the size and in the color.
The size fits it exactly.
Long armed, long fingers.
Yeah,
Now, folks, I'm not saying it's an orangutan, but it does fit that description. So it makes me wonder, it's almost like it leads even more credence to me believing that maybe the orang pendek, I can buy into something 100% that's maybe a 3-footer, 3.5 footer that's hiding around up there in the mountains.
Yeah, who's to say that the orang pendek is just an undiscovered, very rare ape that's living in that area? It's different than the orangutan.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because they discover new monkeys all the time. What was it, the one that they discovered just a couple years ago, the Bondo ape?
Mm-hmm. That is a creepy.
That's in Africa,
chimp,
but
yeah.
I think they'd had pictures of it for a long time.
Only from the 90s did they ever get photos. They've been told about it for quite some time.
Right. So now they know it's real, and they've actually got a specimen. Mm-hmm. I think they found a dead one, or they shot one. Heck, I don't know.
Yeah, I think they've got not a good
but
specimen.
You know what I'm saying?
I think they got one.
Sumatra's not very populated, so maybe this is just another ape that's living there. It's nothing to do with Bigfoot or anything.
I had actually heard, and I can't think of where I actually heard it from, but that they were saying that they believed that they were very close to proving that the orang pendek was real.
Yeah, it's probably real. In fact, I think they discovered a new monkey or something in Vietnam.
They discovered 3 new creatures in Vietnam, I believe. But
I say one was some kind of primate,
may
like
have been
a monkey or something.
Well, and what's funny is some of these stories, like I told you about the very crazy GI story, he actually talks about seeing some of them in the trees, these smaller ones in the trees. One was a black one that it stayed behind to kind of defend its group as its group left, and them telling it story. Now, of course, I wasn't there. I don't know what it, but if you listen to the story, it sounds like a troop of primates that was fleeing an area under duress, and one stayed behind to try to slow them down or fight or whatever it was. The orang pendek has been seen a few times in trees in Sumatra. They're not known to live in trees, but they have been seen there. So it kind of leads more for me to want to lean more towards, I can understand why people could get behind that. I'm not saying that Bigfoot's not real, because after talking to Gary and Mike, both on air and off air folks, they really tied a lot more down for me to really think, you know what, there's something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just like we've said before, I'm sure most cases are misidentifications, but there's always that small percentage that you just can't explain.
Yeah.
To me, there's just too many unexplained events for there not to be more to the story. And then you look at almost all the ancient cultures where these things are seen, it goes back forever that they've seen these things. This is the Almas, or this is the Sasquatch. And so why would all these cultures be making up this story? So,
and MU did a really good story on Zana on this
oh, really?
This past Thursday, she did it. They did a good story.
We almost did it too, about a month ago.
Yeah,
in fact, I even put a blog up like a month ago on her. We were going to record, and we never did. I know why we didn't. I remember right before we were about to record, I think America or something released a story on it. We were like, man, it's a good thing we didn't record that.
Is that what it was?
I think so.
I can't remember.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
The Coral Castle.
It was the Coral Castle. We were going to do some work on.
The Coral Castle, I had
Edward Lee Scaldron or whatever his name is.
I had a bunch of stuff written down and all linked to the Coral Castle. And when they did it, we didn't do it.
Yeah. There's a lot of recordings we do that we just never release.
Yeah.
We almost did one on Zana.
But Zana was another one and they did, and it was only, I'm trying to think right off on the spot, but something about the DNA, that they studied her DNA just recently.
Well, for people that don't know, Zana is apparently an almas. An almas is a type of European Sasquatch that lives like in southern Russia, what is now Georgia and stuff. And I don't know what year this took place. I think it was in the 1800s, but
the end of the 1800s. I want to say 1870.
Right, they captured this almas.
Maybe before that. I think she died in the 1890s is when actually she died.
They captured her, and she was a female almas, and they habituated it, and they tamed her, and they had her doing chores for them.
And they also had her for a sex slave.
Several of the men with her. Actually had children with her.
Yeah.
And some of them survived. I mean,
I think 3.
I'm trying to remember the guys. I remember. I know for a fact she had like 2 sons, and they said that they had really big jaws and they weren't the best looking.
Well,
and they were,
in the MU, you'll have to listen to it because I'm going blank right now. But it's one of those things where they checked it and that she didn't have any more. They didn't have any more Neanderthal DNA than what you would think, like than me or you. So it wasn't like they were maybe a Neanderthal throwback or something like that, but they did have some other DNA in them that they couldn't quite put their finger on. So maybe she's closer to a primate.
Oh, what are you saying that they were able to exhume her body and test the DNA?
They tested the DNA of her son's skull.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that one yet.
And what is it called? The Dyatlov Pass. You remember the story about the UFOs in Russia? The one UFO where all those hikers went missing and then they found them.
They were like aged.
Yeah. You need to listen to the latest MU. I know now I'm doing an MU commercial, but you need to listen to it because as much as you like that story, they do a whole thing. There's a man that actually just finished writing a book on the whole thing, and he actually went to Russia 3 different times, stayed over there, studied it, interviewed the one hiker that got sick and came back, and his people went ahead and went on. He interviewed him just months before he died.
Really?
The whole thing's, we got to get the book. The book is going to be awesome.
That's awesome.
Hey, let me tell you this right quick.
Okay.
While we're still on this whole crypto thing, let me get to this. I found a few more crypto things. I was looking for some that might be, we've all seen the pictures on the internet of like the giant camel spiders and stuff when they were over there in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they look like they're as big around as a tire and things like that. So I just started searching up crypto stuff in the areas that we've been occupying for, thinking of veterans. I wanted to think of something up like that. I only found 2 really interesting ones. One's from India. Nothing really going on over there. But it's called the Buru. And it actually says there's an alarm.
It's called the what?
The Buru. B-U-R-U.
Nibiru?
Not Nibiru.
That's the 10th planet, man.
No, the burrow. That's Eddie Bravo's monster. It said it was a large or giant, I don't know if those were 2 separate things, but
catfish.
Aquatic reptile that's said to live in the Zero Valley in India.
It's a catfish. Come on.
No, they say it looks like a giant monitor lizard.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they're claiming.
How big?
That they didn't. There's not a lot of information on some of these things. It's almost just kind of like it was a tail, and somebody took it down and kind of did a little study on it and stuff like that.
Okay.
The other cool one though was from Pakistan, and it's Pakistan's version of the Bigfoot. Basically, it lives in the mountain regions.
Pakistan has a Bigfoot?
Yes, it lives in the mountain region area of Pakistan.
Wow.
And it's called the Balmanru or the Badmanis. I'm serious. The Badmanis. Yeah. Yes, that's speaking of cool names. It's like Baddmanus, Bad M Anus.
Wow.
But what's funny is
it's like a lowland abominable snowman because Pakistan runs right into
the Himalayas.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they're saying is it falls between the almas of the Central Asian mountain range.
I got you.
And the
what
Himalayas.
The heck's the name of it again?
The Barmanu or the Badmanis.
Man, I got to learn these and add these to my repertoire.
Exactly.
That and the Batutut. That's 2 new.
But here's a really cool thing, and I want to get this paper. Of course, you're going to have to freshen up on your French. There's a Spanish zoologist. His name's Jordi Magraner, and he lives in France. And he did the very first known research from 1987 to 1990 on this Badmanus.
Wow.
And he actually wrote a paper. Now, I would love to give you the name of that paper, but my French is less than pathetic, so it's probably not something that I could be shouting off and chiming in about, but it's something that I wish there was I'd like to read about it. I'd like to know what he's found there, because just like what you brought up, it's actually resting in between the Himalayas in Central Asia. Maybe there is something going on there, man.
Well, Lloyd Pye is a big proponent for there being different bipedal, whatever they are, cryptids that change their appearance and size and stuff based on
At will.
what, yeah,
no.
based on where they live. In other words, like you were saying earlier, the Sumatran is the orang pendek, or if you go to the Himalayas, it's the abominable snowman. If you go to the Pacific Northwest, it's the Sasquatch. If you go to Florida, it's the skunk ape. You know what I mean? Like they change based on like their territory, which makes sense because that happens with animals that we know of. I mean, like white-tailed deer in South Texas are completely different than white-tailed deer in Alberta.
True. So I guess that's what I was getting at is when it gets colder, they need to be bigger, correct? And when it's hotter,
That's what it seems like.
Doesn't it need to be smaller? Isn't that what it is? I don't remember how that works.
I don't know. I know that animals that live on islands usually end up getting larger for some reason.
Yeah. And that goes back to like the hobbits of Florence.
But they're smaller, right?
They're little bitty, yeah. That's what there seems like mammals get smaller and reptiles get larger.
Yeah.
Remember they always, like, I think on that same thing, they found like elephants that are like 3 foot tall.
That's awesome.
Bunch of tiny elephantes. Yeah. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. That was something it came to mind whenever I was looking through all this stuff this week. I thought I'd like to read
It's a good call with the Veterans Day things. I'd
just like to read a couple of stories about it because it's just, I'm still fascinated by the whole thing that there are so many sightings, and that's kind of what I want to wrap this little segment up with right quick, guys. I know I've been rambling and going wild with it, but here's the thing. You've got sightings in Vietnam. We've got a man that studied this now in Pakistan. We've got it in Sumatra. We know it's in Asia. We know it's in Himalayas. When are they ever going to finally take it serious and somebody really devote a little more study to it? We like to joke about finding Bigfoot, and everybody likes to give each other a hard time about Bigfoot, but seriously, there are so many cases now from around the world that it really needs some serious study. It really should be something that
I think most academics are scared to touch the subject because they're afraid of being ridiculed and laughed at. And so that's, it's becoming more mainstream. So eventually I think the tides are going to change.
I certainly hope so because there's so many cases and so many, I would like to say reliable. I can't because I don't know of all the cases around the world, but there's a lot of people that have really given some good stories about it. So I really hope that it starts making a change now, and I hope that people look at it a little bit differently instead of just laughing and taking it as a joke. There's a lot of more information about these creatures all around, really.
Yeah.
Well, I hope y'all enjoy it. I hope I didn't bore anybody to death.
I think it's neat.
That. All right. Well, I'm going to have to go get me a drink. I'm a little thirsty now.
Me too.
All right. Let's wrap it up, and we will be back shortly. Wait, hold on now. Wait a second. What are you coming back with? You're not getting out of here that easy. What are you doing next?
My top four artifacts that are missing through time. They show up in places where they shouldn't be.
So this is going to actually show
like a Casio keyboard that was found in 2 BC.
Nice. What is that keyboard? Looks like a guitar. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know, but that is the coolest instrument there is.
I'm so getting one. Rock me. Amadeus. I don't even think it was in that video, but I'm going with that whole deal.
Yeah, they're really popular in the 80s.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, sorry, we're dating ourselves, but that's hilarious. Yes, I love it. All right, yeah, let's wrap this puppy up. Let's go grab us a quick drink, and y'all go grab a drink or do whatever. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the top 4 anomalous objects. All right, everybody, we are back, large and in charge and looking for chickies. All right, Philly, you were talking about how you're going to bring us out something crazy, some out-of-place artifacts. What are you going to hit me with this time, brother?
Yeah, tonight I'm going to get into my top 4 favorite out-of-place objects.
Because I'm a big history buff now.
Yeah, I know. And we haven't done anything in history in quite a while.
Yeah.
So I figured I'd bring something up in history since you did crypto.
Yeah, do it. Let's do this.
An out-of-place object is an object that exists in a place where it's impossible for it to exist. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
An out of place
And
object.
I love it.
That'd be like
Now, before I get started, I'm going to put a disclaimer here. Okay, now look, people. I am not a geologist. I am not a professional scientist. I'm just bringing this. This is an entertainment
Are you an
show.
archaeologist?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
So some of these artifacts that I'm going to bring up, there's, of course, a lot of controversy around them. So there's going to be just as many people that, or, different websites that say it's fake, and there's other ones that say it's real. And so we don't really need to get into that. If it's not 100% real or you don't believe it, don't bust my chops about it. I'm just bringing the information there.
I'm going to tear you up.
Anyways, there's several of them, and you can look at them, and I'll put links to all of them in the show, and there's tons more. These are just my 4 favorite. The first one, now I don't know if you know, but you probably know some of these. You may know all of them. I don't know. The first one.
I don't know. I'm a pretty smart guy, Kyle.
Well, I don't know about that.
Okay.
The Koso artifact. You ever heard of this?
No, I have not heard of the Koso artifact.
Koso
Sometimes
artifact.
I don't like whenever you just blindside me with stuff.
Not the Lee Corso artifact. The Koso artifact.
Okay, hit me with it.
Okay. On February 13th of 1961, Wallace Lane, Virginia Maxey, and Mike Mixel were out looking for geodes for their rock shop. They have a rock shop called like Rockhound's Gems and Gift Shop. They had a gift shop there.
Okay.
And they often went out and did this. And, they were out searching about 6 miles north of Olancha, California.
Okay.
That's where they were doing these rock searching. And after, they normally sell geodes. You know what geodes are?
Yes, sir.
Everybody's seen them where you crack them in half or cut them in half and it's got crystals and stuff on inside. And so they were out collecting these geodes, and they collected, a couple fossils, a couple geodes, and they threw them in a sack, and they went home. No big deal. They do this all the time. Well, the next day, Mixel was cutting these geodes in half, and fairly into the process, he totally ruined a brand new diamond saw blade while cutting one of these geodes, or what he thought was a geode, in half.
Okay.
So he was like, what the hell? Well, he looked at it, and instead of it being hollow, he found a perfectly circular section of very hard material that appeared to be porcelain, okay? And in the center of the porcelain was like a 2-millimeter shaft of bright metal, and the metal responded to a magnet. They had a geologist come look at this thing, and they did some tests on it. And the geologist examined the artifact and said that the shells that were encrusting the outside of this geode or rock or whatever it was, it would have taken 500,000 years to attain its present form. Now, what they think was in this rock was a spark plug.
Wait a second.
Like a spark plug that you see all the time, the white porcelain part.
Did they finish cutting the rock open, or how did they know it was porcelain?
Well, right. Evidently, when they ruined the first saw blade,
They stopped.
They knew something was wrong. It's not a geode. They don't know. And then I guess they finished it by cutting it in half because there's pictures on the internet of it.
Okay, like X-rays of it or CAT scans.
Yeah,
of it or something?
they X-rayed it, and they've got pictures of it and they've had it looked at, and yeah, I mean, it looks like a spark plug. But the problem is, just like all these other artifacts, the rock that's encrusting the thing, it would have taken
500,000 years
500,000.
old.
Yeah. So, is it an alien spark plug? Was it a time traveler? I don't know.
I've got it answered right there. It fell out of the DeLorean.
It's right. It's
I mean,
crazy.
Marty McFly dropped it.
I'm going to put pictures of all this on the website. But man, that one is always my favorite because it doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense. I don't even know what.
I mean, how is that possible?
I don't know. That's. I guess that's the reason I ask if they had X-rayed it or really.
Yeah, they've X-rayed
If they
it.
cut some of the. Did they end up cutting the rest of the geode away so they could actually study what
Yes,
it was?
it's cut. No, they didn't break it out of the rock, but it's
still
cut,
in the
it's
rock.
sawed completely in half, and you can see both halves. And it looks like a donut size porcelain with a small metal rod through the middle.
Surrounded in porcelain.
Right.
So it's a geode with a porcelain wrapped rod in the center of it.
Right.
And that's not naturally occurring by
No.
any
And when they
means.
X-rayed it, you can see it. I mean, it looks like it even has like the threads of a bolt on one end and everything. I mean,
Where the hell did that come?
well, that's a part of the argument. A lot of people say, well, it's not that old. That rocks can form in certain instances very quickly. It could be like 100 years old. But, the one geologist that they had looked at it said there's no way. This stuff, I mean, there's
Wow.
like fossilized shells and stuff on the outside that's encrusted to it. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a geologist. That's a fascinating story.
That is a hell of a story. Yeah, that's pretty
Around-
cool.
Number 2.
Was that number 1? That's your favorite
No,
one?
it's
Or
not
is
my
that
favorite
number
one.
4?
Number 4 would probably be my favorite one.
Okay, so we started at number 4. We're going to number 1.
That's okay.
Okay, so you're on number 3 basically now.
Okay.
We're counting up to the top one. Okay,
Yes.
so number 3.
Number 3 is the aluminum wedge of Ayud.
Now here comes those cool names again. Ayud.
Well, I don't know how
Where
you
did this
pronounce
come
it.
from?
Okay. In 1974 in Romania, 2 kilometers east of Ayud, a group of workers on the banks of the river Mureș discovered 3 buried objects in the sand.
Okay.
2 of the objects turned out to be mastodon bones,
Oh, kick ass.
millions of years old, okay? The 3rd object was a block of metal, similar in some respects to the head of a hammer. It was roughly 8 inches long, about 5 inches wide, and 3 inches tall. Now, they took this metal object and they sent it off to have it studied, at the Institute of Metals in Romania.
Mm-hmm.
And it's composed of an alloy of extremely complex metal. It's made up of 12 different elements. 89% of the elements, 89% of it was aluminum. Aluminum is not found in nature. It's combined with other minerals and materials, and we've only been able to do that in the last 100 years or so. So if this thing's laying next to mastodon bones from millions of years ago.
Now they claim it came from the same strata, correct?
Yeah, it's exactly the same strata. It was all found together. What the heck is this aluminum wedge doing here? Right? So
Yeah.
now, crazy, ancient aliens again.
Yeah.
They say it's probably a landing gear or a piece of a landing gear from a spacecraft. But here again, what the hell is this thing doing next to millions of years old mastodon bones?
The first thing I think of is that if it was found on the banks of a river, it's something that washed and tumbled and washed into the same strata as the mastodon bones. Maybe they all washed together from another area years ago, and then it's just kind of piled up. It's hard to say. I mean, I understand how they're trying to tie to it, but if it's not, then what does that tell you? Well, that it tells me that mankind is hundreds of thousands of years older.
Exactly.
The same as this COSO, as the spark plug, yeah.
Well, just like we've talked about privately and on previous podcasts, I mean, this could be another indicator that mankind was here before the last deluge, before the last flood, pre-flood,
Pre-Ice Age.
Pre-Ice Age, had the technology to forge aluminum, and this was, just a piece of something that had to be built, We always assume that, we're the smartest that mankind's ever reached, and maybe that's just not true. Maybe there was a whole bunch of us here a long time ago, and for whatever reason.
Multiple rises and falls, maybe?
Yeah. So that's another great one, right?
Yeah, that's a cool one right there, really.
Right. Now, Ayud is A-I-U-D. So if you want to search it up, I'll put links to it, but it's called the aluminum wedge of Ayud.
That's pretty cool.
The next one, I know you've heard of this one because I know you're a Philip Coppens fan, and I know you've read some of his books. The Antikythera device.
Yes, I do. I enjoyed, They've actually done several studies on that for sure.
Right. Now, the Antikythera device is a really neat one. I mean, it's, like the world's first computer, they call it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in 1900, a Greek sponge diver named Ilias Stadiatos, working off the small Greek island of Antikythera, found the remains of a sunken Greek ship at the bottom of the sea. The wreck was about 50 meters long and was located in about 43 meters of water. They found, tons of stuff in the wreckage. They found marble and bronze statues, gold and jewelry, and all kinds of other artifacts, and they were all dated to about 1st century BC. Mm-hmm. Well, all the items were donated to the Museum of Athens, and they were just left there, Well, about 2 or 3 years later, while sorting through some of the material, a man named Valerio Stais noticed a calcified lump of bronze that looked like a big watch. No one knew what it was, so he went around, what the heck is this? Nobody knew. Well, in 1958, this was years later, a Yale science historian, Derek De Sola Price, stumbled upon the object again, and he decided to make it a subject of a scientific study. Okay, so he was working on a book on it. And De Sola stated, "Nothing like this instrument is preserved elsewhere. Nothing comparable to it is known from any ancient scientific text or literary allusion. On the contrary, from all that we know of science and technology in the Hellenistic age, we should have felt that such a device could not have ever existed." I mean, then he concluded that the object was both dials on the inside and the outside. It had a series of gears inside of it. This thing was like the size of our mixing board, like the size of a medium-sized suitcase, I guess. And it was calcified, of course, and it had all kinds of gears and stuff. There was at least 20 gear wheels that were preserved, including a sophisticated assembly of gears that were mounted eccentrically on a turntable. The device also contained a differential gear, permitting two shafts to rotate at different speeds. As to its purpose, the mechanism appeared to have been a device for calculating the motions of stars and planets, a working model of the solar system. So,
that sounds like when we were talking about earlier with the sailors, the ancient sailors being able to sail. That almost sounds like maybe not even that, but also like a timekeeping device also as well.
But yeah, they don't, and this thing is very complicated, okay, and very precise. It says here that the study also revealed some of the complexity of the engineering that had gone into this device. The moon sometimes moves slightly faster in the sky than at others because of the satellite's elliptical orbit. To overcome this, the designer would have had to use a pin and slot mechanism to connect the two gears and wheels that introduced the necessary variations. So the designer of this thing was very knowledgeable about the speed that the moon and all the other things. He knew that there was on elliptics. That's the craziest thing, is this is a high-tech device.
Yeah.
It says here, and finally it says, the discovery of the Antikythera device led to one gigantic realization, that our everyday clock started as an astronomical showpiece that happened to also indicate the time, and not vice versa, as most of us believed half a century ago. Gradually, the timekeeping functions of the clocks became more important, and the device that showed the cycles of heaven became subsidiary, only to be forgotten and then once reinvented all over again. So they're thinking that this thing, of course it kept time, but it did so much more than that. It was able to map out the movement of the planets in the solar system, the cycles of the seasons. It was able to map out, and all this thing. This was on a first century wreck, BC. Mm-hmm. So how old is this device pre that?
Yeah, exactly. Where did it come from?
Right.
Or where did the technology to build it come from?
Exactly.
And that's almost like people would always, you try to speculate of how would you guide yourself on the ocean whenever there was an overcast skies, stormy skies. How would you know where you were going? Well, with this device here, maybe in some way it actually made it easier.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. What do you do when it's like that? You just wait till the sun comes out again?
I saw that there was a guy that actually rebuilt it. He actually built one of them.
Well, they have a couple reproductions. I think they said that there's one in England, and I think that they said that there's one in Wyoming or somewhere like that.
The heck's it doing in Wyoming?
Well, the reproductions.
Yeah, what the heck's it doing up there? There's not any water around that thing. Somebody just sitting in their backyard watching the stars and the sun go by?
Well, I don't know. But I'm just telling you where that.
Can we get a copy of it? Where's that 3D printer?
There you go.
3D printer. I want one of those printed out.
Well, see, that's how they know about the inner workings of it is through
they used a 3D printer,
X-ray technology, because it's so calcified and rusted. They can't open
for real.
Okay,
hit me with number one.
Yeah,
baby.
My favorite one, and this is probably just because it's local, and I know you know this one. The London Hammer.
Somehow I had a feeling that this was going to make it on the list. The London Hammer
reminds me a lot of the Koso artifact. How the Koso artifact was a spark plug, left with all this rock and stone surrounding it. The London Hammer is about the same thing. In June 1936, Max Hahn and his wife Emma were hiking along the Red Creek near London, Texas. It was there that they discovered an artifact which seemed completely out of place. They found a unique piece of wood protruding from a rock concretion. When they had their son come and break the rock around this handle sticking out. And when he broke the rock, it revealed that there was an iron hammer with a wooden handle buried in the rock. Okay, do you understand that?
Yeah, exactly. So the rock is encasing this whole thing. The only thing you could see was the wooden handle sticking out.
Yes. In 1983, Carl Ball, a creationist, purchased the artifact and promoted it as a monumental pre-flood discovery. The rock encompassing the hammer was dated to between 400 and 500 million years old. Wrap your head around that.
Yeah.
So there's this hammer. I guess it's like roofing hammer, a large roofing hammer. It's not a sledgehammer. It's not a little tiny hammer for hanging a picture on your wall. This is like a large roofing hammer, and it's got an iron head on it. It's got a handle, and this thing is encapsulated in this stone.
I'm going to touch on a few things that I've read when I was first reading about that artifact.
Sure.
Number one was the fact that the iron in the hammerhead is almost 99% pure, which is more pure than any iron that we have today. Wow. So they don't know how they made that. Also, too, in the handle itself, part of the handle was turning into coal whenever they broke it out of that stone.
Really?
That was part of the wood that was in it, was turning into coal. Now, they were people that were trying to scoff and poo-poo this whole thing.
Well, exactly. All these artifacts I mentioned, there's people that are coming out of the woodwork trying to explain to it. If you throw a hammer and it's in a certain type of mud and clay,
that's exactly
it can bake
right.
in 10 years, but come on, man.
Well, what they were saying was because of the iron, that it would attract certain minerals that would cause it to encase itself on the flowing water from that river. Now, I don't know. No geologist here. I don't have any idea. But I do know that if it is true that handle was turning to coal, nothing causes wood to turn to coal except time.
Right.
It doesn't matter. I don't give a damn what you float it in, what you roll it in. Certain minerals aren't going to leach into it from a river and turn the handle into coal.
Well, right. Okay, so there's a large portion of people on this earth that think that human beings have only been here for 6,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you explain a hammer that's encased in stone that's 400 to 500 million years old?
That's the date alone is the thing that blows me away. It's the dating alone. It's the one thing to say that it's like the Antikythera device. It's one thing to say that, hey, that was the turning of the years. We're not really sure.
Or the coastal artifact, 500,000 years.
Yeah.
But when you say 400 and 500 million.
500,000 years ago is ridiculously long ago, but you're right. When you start saying 400 or 500 million years, that is, I can't fathom that. I really can't. I cannot.
The heck? Oh, your computer?
What the heck was that? I really can't wrap my head around it.
No.
I cannot. I can't. I don't know. I really don't know.
That's why I like these things.
I'm so
they
fascinated
don't make any sense.
by them. Yeah, I'm so fascinated by it. But yeah, you're 99% pure iron and coal in the handle. If that's all true. Now, just down here south of us, down around Granbury, whenever you start talking about where they have the tracks.
Oh, in Glenrose.
In Glenrose.
Yeah.
When they start having I've actually heard that there were tracks found down there with human footprints in them.
Right.
Now,
dinosaur tracks with a human footprint in the track.
Yes. I've never been down there to see it.
Really?
Hell, I
haven't seen that. I've been down there and seen
I've
the
seen
tracks.
the dinosaur tracks.
Yeah.
I've been down there several times. But I've never seen the alleged human in the dinosaur tracks.
You know what's also
have to go
neat
check that out
about Glenrose, other than the dinosaur footprints and all the stuff down there?
Is it's close to Granbury and there's a Babe's Chicken in Granbury?
Well, of course. But their county courthouse down there used to have on display the bones of a giant.
A female giant.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think it's there anymore.
It's not there.
And unfortunately, I wasn't aware of giants till 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's going to be something. That might be. I tell you who we need to get a hold of too. We need to interview Josh Reeves.
Yeah, man, about the rock wall.
Yeah, we're talking. You've worked all around there, and we've all been over there for wrestling meets and everything else. So that would really be a good interview.
Well, and there's been other people that have hit me up about different interviews. Brian again. He was talking about the Black Eyed Kids
with David Weatherly.
Yeah, I've sent a couple emails. I haven't heard nothing back. Some people are really quick to do an interview with us, and then some people are harder to get a hold of. They're very busy,
especially around here towards the end of the year.
So, what I'm trying to say is, I don't want people to think that we're ignoring certain subjects. When there's certain things, I don't really know a whole lot about it. I'd rather talk to a specialist.
Yes.
Like when we had Linda on.
Yes.
Okay, I don't really know anything about dogmen. It's not my area of expertise.
You don't know really? You don't know? Come on now. We don't know anything about that. Neither one of us know anything about that.
Right.
That was a really wild one. Yeah. Now, next week, we're going to have a really good one with Nick. I can't wait to talk to Nick.
Redfern,
yes, Nick Redfern. His new book is called For Nobody's Eyes Only. If you want to really check that out, it's going to be a really cool one. We're going to get him to talk about that. The cool thing about Nick is he'll talk about any of his books.
Well, and I've always wanted to talk to Nick. And so I know we're going to be promoting his new book. But before I get him off the air, I want to ask him if he could briefly talk to me about the subhuman
No, the London
people
Underground.
that live in the London tubes and the
That's
subway
me.
system of underneath London. That stuff's crazy.
That's some of my favorite stories. Is that
right? There's
there.
missing people with the subway system
Yeah.
at night.
Yeah.
And there's these, devolved human beings that are
Yes.
living down there.
Like I said, I'm going to promote any and everything Nick has, but he's going to have to share a little bit of the devolved human being stories from
Yeah.
London for sure.
I mean, that's probably the most interesting one I've ever heard of from his various stories.
He's got so many. I mean, there's so many conspiracy theories that he's written about.
I
There's
like his
so
Men in
much
Black
stuff.
book. I read that one too. I mean, that was really neat.
His NASA books. I mean, so far every one of his books.
Keep
have been
Out.
Great.
Keep Out was good.
Keep Out is a great book.
That's where I first learned
The
about
Pyramids in the Pentagon. Great
Dulce.
book. Great book. Yeah, Nick's going to be fun to talk with. I cannot wait. The hardest thing for us is going to be able to not just do a barn burner of an interview and it just drag on. I mean, it's like we could easily do a 2-part interview with Nick. And then the fact that we're all going to go hang out afterwards, like, in a few weeks, we're going to go meet up with Nick, probably after Thanksgiving or so, and all hang out and have a few drinks. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I could
It's just-
I could
'cause,
talk to him for hours, 3
Hell,
hours.
Nick just
easy.
lives 30 minutes from us. I mean, and then hell, Lyle's the same way. Lyle Blackburn's going to be the very next one.
I think
hell, he's
and
less than an
and
hour.
You said
from
he's
us, too.
on Finding Bigfoot tonight. Yeah,
He's on Finding
That's pretty
Bigfoot.
crazy.
So when this is all said and done, we'll have to check out Lyle because they're going to Boggy Creek.
the Falk Monster.
The Falk Monster. It'll be awesome. It'll be really, really good. So
I want to see if they're going to play any more whooping or something like the sounds we listened to in the first segment.
I hope so. I mean, that stuff is extremely interesting.
It's pretty neat. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't show you much, but I'm a sucker. I watch it. There's not a whole lot on TV that's really that stimulating. But man, some of them they have. It sounds like wood knocking and things like that. I mean,
Real quick, did you ever post that photo that we got sent to us from that friend of ours?
no, I didn't.
Okay, we need
I
to
sent
put
it
that
to
up.
a few listeners when they
Yeah.
emailed me about something. I sent it to them. I sent it to Benjamin Grundy at Mysterious Universe, and he
Ben
got
and
back
Aaron,
with-
they liked it.
He got back with me, but I can post it.
You need to put that up on our website because you were just telling me the other night. I haven't watched it yet, but I did record it about the show of the UFOs. That
Right, I
talking
was
about the
so
lights in
excited.
the
I mean,
trees.
Delee was like, "What's wrong?" Because I came flying out of my chair trying to
Yeah.
get my phone to call you because it's so funny. I had seen the show that I told you to record literally like 4 years ago, and when you showed me that picture that was sent to us of the lights in the trees, that's what I remembered in my mind. It's like that looked like what I saw on that show one time.
I can't
Well,
wait
it was
to
like
check
6
it out.
o'clock. I was just channel surfing, and boom, it was that episode. And then I looked, and it was on Sci-Fi, or I don't remember what channel it was. Destination America.
Yeah, I think it was Destination.
And I looked, and it was on again. I was like, man, you got to record it. I don't know. I mean, the show may not be that great, but that particular woman's, what she saw is exactly what it looks like in that picture.
Yeah.
And if you want, I'll put that picture up on our website
Yeah,
for
put
this
that
episode
picture
so
up.
people can look at it. And write us in, man. I mean, if you see that picture and if you've seen something similar to that, or you can tell us what it is.
This is off a stationary game camera.
It's a game camera.
At a real good friend of mine's
At like
house.
2 a.m.
Literally, these people are a mile from where our studio is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
it looks to me like millions of really bright, like fireflies, but you can see them swirling around the trunks of the trees.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's really bright, like phosphorus.
Yeah.
Like when you're burning something.
It's strange. If nothing else, what I like is the fact that in the background you can see the trees are clear, and then some of it looks blurry.
And then
Almost-
the trees close to you are also in
clear.
perfect focus.
Yes, yeah. So you can tell the camera wasn't moving when all this stuff was done. I mean, there's parts of it are blurry, parts of it are in focus, parts of it. It's a very strange
Right, and
photograph.
game cameras, they have a very fast shutter speed because they're capturing
Mm-hmm.
moving animals real quick. So I mean, this looks like somebody with a very slow shutter speed, where it looks like the lights are swirling and drug out. So, I mean, it's pretty neat. I'm gonna post that. Everybody, thank you again for listening to us.
Yeah, thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed this episode. This is just me and Kyle kind of hanging out, being ourselves.
Yeah, we
and
didn't have
talking about
any
some stuff
interviews
we
this
enjoyed,
week, so we just put together some stories that we thought would be entertaining.
stuff that we enjoyed. Thanks to all the veterans that are listening and all the ones that have
Absolutely.
served or will serve.
Thank
and
you
have
for your
served.
service. Yes.
So we hope everybody's enjoying it. And check with us again on Monday. We're going to be playing the Nick Redfern interview. We hope everybody enjoyed it. But thanks so much for making this fun. We have really enjoyed doing it. We're going to be here doing it from now on.
Yes, thank you for
guys. This
those
has been great.
that have written new reviews on Apple for us.
Yes.
I don't have it in front of me. We'll get it out of the next show. Please follow the website, www.expandedperspectives.com.
Mm-hmm.
Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter. You can find us almost everywhere that you would think.
Yeah.
I mean, social media.
We're around.
Yeah. Email the show.
Yeah, email us.
Perspectives
Yeah,
at
you bet.
yahoo.com. We love to hear from people. And we usually try to get back with you really quick.
We try. Yeah.
All
Hey, bud.
If you have off to work tomorrow, hey, enjoy your day. I have to work. So.
I'm off, baby.
Yeah.
Hey, but thanks a lot, folks. Really, you really made this enjoyable, so we appreciate it. So, hey, y'all have a really safe week, and we will see y'all next time.
Goodbye.